Lastly, we will look at that same example using the reciprocal method. Under this reciprocal method, we recognize that service departments utilize each other. And so we look at this reciprocal relationship between the two departments to calculate how much is allocated for each department. So we consider this percentage usage of facilities and information systems utilizing each other to get our examples. In our first step, it's the same under all three methods, direct method, step method, and reciprocal method. We figure out the percentage of usage as a percent of the total. Okay. Then there are two ways to determine what that reciprocal benefit is. One of them is working out the two equations for the reciprocal method service units. The other way is to use Solver on Excel. The Solver instructions are on pages 237 and 238 in your textbook. In order to use Solver, you first have to download it to your computer. It is an Excel add-on. So with a PC, you would go to File and then Options. You go to Add-ins, and then you would choose Solver and Go. And then it would install. You would then need to restart Excel for your Solver to appear over here. When we use Solver, we calculate that our reciprocal cost is going to be $85,714 for information systems, and for facilities we have $57,143. So this is allocating a portion of facilities cost to information systems and a portion of information systems cost to facilities. So instead of the step method where we allocate all of one service department to the other units and then allocate the second service department, under the reciprocal method, we do a combined and we allocate portions of the service department 1 to service department 2 and portion of service department 2 to service department 1. So then we have our service percentage usage. So for information systems, that is 40, 10, and 30. And for facilities, it was 40, 25, and 25. Then we have our allocation amounts from here. For information systems, we're going to allocate $85,714 times the percentage usage. And for, I want these to be in that row. The allocation amount for facilities is $57,143 times the percentage. So our totals for departments same. We take the 160 plus 34,000 plus 22,000. For information systems, 190,000 plus its allocation from information systems and its allocation from facilities. And for our software systems, it's 125 plus our allocation from information systems and our allocation from facilities. If we add up these three amounts, it should equal $595,000. So we have allocated all of our indirect costs to our production departments. The next example that we're going to look at is looking at joint products. When a company makes multiple products that are considered joint products, it means that a couple of the processes to make these products are identical. So we do the processes first that are identical, and then we split those costs among the joint products as we get ready to process them further. We can see here that we have three different products, and we have joint production costs of $356,000 that we're going to allocate out to the three products. We have three different methods that we can do that. We have the physical unit method, the sales value at split off method, and the net realizable value method. So we're going to look at each one of those individually. First is the physical units method. So in that we take the total units of production. So we can see here we have 22,000, 45,500, and 18,000. So our total units of production are 85,500 gallons. So then we want to say, what is our percentage of units? So 22,000 divided by 85,000. And our total cost to allocate are 356,000. So we take our 356,000 times our percentage of total units to allocate the 356,000 in joint costs. We then add our separable processing costs. So this is the additional processing cost that we need to do to have a final saleable product at our full sales price. So for Y64, we have 65,000. We add our total costs, so our joint costs that we allocated, plus the additional processing costs, and we get total costs for each product line. We then divide that total cost by the number of units produced to get a total cost per unit. So under the physical unit allocation method, we have a total cost per unit for each of our three product lines. We then want to say, how much money do we make on those product lines under that allocation method? So we have our total sales, 231,000. We'll look at our sales for each product versus our cost of goods sold, which we calculated here. Our allocated cost, and our separable costs. Add those together to get our total costs. Our gross margin is sales minus cost of goods sold. So now we have two products with positive gross margin and one product with negative gross margin. Then we're going to look at sales value at split off method. With sales value at split off method, we want to look at what is our price after additional processing versus our separable processing costs. So we have our information from the chart up here. So we can fill this out. Our price is $10.50 after processing, $6.75 for G, and $4.22. Our separable processing costs have there. We made 22,000 gallons of Y, 45,500 gallons of G, and 18,000 of X. Our total joint cost was $356,000. Our sales value at split off is $2.24 for Y, $2.88 for G, and 44 cents for X. What that is the sales value before we do the extra processing. So our split off value is $2.24, where if we do spend $65,500 in additional processing, then we can sell it for $10.50. So our sales value after additional processing is $10.50 times 22,000. And our sales value at split off is $2.24 times 22,000 gallons. So we have our sales value at split off, which we just calculated. Add those up, we get our total. Then we want our percent of sales value at split off. So we take our sales value at split off divided by our total sales at split off, and we get our percent of sales value. Now we allocate those $356,000 in costs. Take the $356,000 times the percentage we just calculated. To give us joint costs. We then add our additional processing costs to get our total cost. We take total costs divided by our gallons produced to get a cost per unit, or cost per gallon. Now we can see, using this version, our cost per gallon is significantly different for X17 and G22. So our joint product costs were allocated differently so that our total unit costs have flipped. So we want to determine what is our gross margin if we use that allocation method. So we have our total sales amount, our cost of goods sold, we have our allocated amount that we calculated, and we have our extra processing costs for each unit, total cost, our gross margin is our sales minus costs. Under this method, our sales value at split off allocation method, now our X17 is operating with a positive gross margin. We no longer have a negative gross margin for that. However, G22's gross margin has dropped significantly. So if we're the production manager of G22, we don't want you to change methods because it's greatly going to reduce the amount of gross margin that we have. However, the X17 production manager does want you to pick that method because that finally has them operating positively. The last method is the net realizable value method. This is considered the best method to choose. So in the net realizable value method, we have information. We have our price after additional processing. This is all information from the table above. Then we have our separable processing costs. So what are our additional processing costs? And our gallons produced and sold, 22,000, 45,500, and 18,000. Our total joint costs are $356,000. Our sales value after additional processing is our $10, our price times the number of units that we make. So with the net realizable value method, we take our sales value of our production minus our extra processing fees. And this is our net realizable value of each product. So our sum of the net realizable value. We then take our net realizable value divided by the total sum net realizable value to get our percentage of net realizable value. We take our $356,000 in joint costs times our net realizable percentage to allocate joint costs. We add our extra production costs to get our total costs. And then divide total costs by number of units produced to get a cost per unit. Then we calculate what our gross margin is of each product line under this joint cost allocation method. And that is the net realizable method of allocation of joint costs. Each method, of course, gets a different unit cost and a different gross margin for our product lines.